Hey everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Teri Hunter. Today is October 7th, 2022. I'm an intuitive astrologer, Reiki master, empowerment coach, and angel therapy practitioner. And today I want to talk about Pluto. Pluto will station direct tomorrow, October 8th, 2022, and it is going to begin its final stages of transiting the house of Capricorn and the sign of Capricorn and what that will mean for us. This transit of Pluto going through Capricorn started in 2008, and it isn't really going to end until 2024. But before I begin this video, because I'm going to just focus in on the last few months of 2022 and kind of generally give you an idea of how Pluto will affect you as it does this movement between the last degrees of Capricorn and the first degrees of Aquarius. These videos are based on whole sign Western astrology. So they're going to be based on your rising sign. To know what your rising sign is, you're going to need not only your date of location of birth, but the exact time of your birth. And I say that because the exact time is important for your moon. But also my sister had twins and they were born a few minutes apart, and it changed their rising signs. Everything else in their chart is basically the same, but this is a significant difference, as the rising sign really indicates our perception of ourselves, how we move ourselves out into the world. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Pluto in general, about Capricorn, and then I'm going to go through the signs, starting with Aries and working my way to Pisces. So we saw Pluto enter Capricorn in 2008. Capricorn, the sign itself, it rules structure, government, officials, politicians, kings, queens, prime ministers, presidents, history to tradition, how it's always been. Capricorn by nature wants to build things in the material world. On an emotional level, it can rule our fears. It can rule the way we act our fears out. We can paralyze us into no action at all. Sometimes our fears can make us overly controlling. Sometimes our fears also give up our power to what has been in the way of structure, even if that structure does not work for me. Now, a little bit about Pluto. Pluto represents death and rebirth. It represents the ultimate transformation. And when I was doing my research on the dates of things and how this was what was going on, I couldn't help but want to look up a little bit more deeply what the transformation of the caterpillar to the butterfly represents, because Pluto is spending quite a bit of time in the last few degrees of Capricorn. It has been at 26 degrees Capricorn since August of 2022, and it will remain there until December 8th, 2022, when it will move into the 27th degree of Capricorn. And that is also the in the United States, in its birth chart, Pluto sits at 27 degrees Capricorn. So this is very significant, not just for the people who reside in the United States, but the effect it has on the world, because Pluto is going to move forward in Capricorn. And then in March of 2023, March 23rd, it's going to enter Aquarius. And it'll spend those first few months. I think it'll spend 3 months in Aquarius before it will retrograde back into Capricorn. It will stay in Capricorn until January 2024. Then it will re-enter on the 22nd of January. It will re-enter Aquarius and it will stay there until September. Then it will retrograde back into Capricorn. And then finally in November of 2024, Pluto will enter Aquarius and it will stay in Aquarius until March 10th, 2043. That's a 19-year stint. We have currently been experiencing Pluto in Capricorn since 2008. And the first thing we saw in 2008 was the election of Barack Obama, our first African-American president. Pluto by nature rules dark-skinned people. It rules many, many things. It rules fortitude. It rules pain, which spawns transformation. It rules other people's money in the form of stocks, taxes, inheritances. When we work with other people's money to create wealth, it rules sex and intimacy, and not always in the same vein. Sex sometimes is not an intimate act, but in the transformed version of Pluto, it is. Well, it's both. Pluto represents the taboo. It represents the things that are very counterintuitive to Capricorn. Capricorn will see an imbalance and maybe sometimes say I don't want to really bring that up. It's how it's always been. And then Pluto comes in and says, well, that's not necessarily balanced. And it starts to disrupt things. So let me go into the idea of the caterpillar, because oftentimes we look at the butterfly as the representation of transformation, and we look at it in a very beautiful way. And yet the caterpillar goes through a tremendous, horrific experience in order to become the butterfly. And I'm just going to kind of real quickly run through. There's 4 stages of the caterpillar. First, there's the egg and the larva. And then there is the larva becoming the caterpillar climbing on the twig and feeding on leaves, and feeding to the point of almost explosion. It just feeds and feeds, like as if it's going into a hibernation, which it is. That feeding then triggers the spinning of the cocoon, or in the butterfly's case, the chrysalis. When it's a moth, they call it a cocoon. When it's a butterfly, they call it a chrysalis. I hope I'm saying that correct. Now, during this process, as the caterpillar finishes spinning this tomb, it triggers, the hormones end up triggering an enzyme that starts the decay of the caterpillar's body. Literally, the caterpillar ingests itself. This is so Plutonian, because Pluto rules psychology. It rules the depths of toxic waste, the toxic emotional waste within our bodies, where we've disempowered ourselves, where we have maybe either exerted dominance and control or given it up, all based on a platform that is not authentic to the deeper truth of what we need emotionally and physically and spiritually and materially. So as this caterpillar decomposes within the cocoon or the chrysalis, it also starts to reconstruct itself with the body parts required to be the butterfly. And as the butterfly now becomes this winged creature, everything about what it was when it was the caterpillar is different than it was now as the butterfly. So where the caterpillar walked on this little twig and just ate leaves, now we see a creature that flies on the airwaves, that only eats nectar. Symbolically, the butterfly represents the dance of joy. And I can't help but emphasize that the bones, the very basic nature of the caterpillar, still lives within the butterfly. So, how is this relevant? Pluto is this process. And what we've seen within our personal lives, we've seen ourselves deconstructed, in jarring, in ways that have exposed things about the structure of our personal lives, the structures of our thinking, the structures around us, whether it be government or our communities, our neighborhoods, the areas where we spend our time and we live our daily lives. Because what I think this is offering us now is a further balance in creating a structure that allows for a win-win. So we're not going to look at each other in the same way. We're not going to evaluate each other on our monetary success. We're not going to value each other on the color of our skin. We are not going to value each other on things that are built out of integrity. And when I say integrity, it's more about, again, creating the win-win situation. So what we're going to do is, I want to tell you, first off, Pluto spends anywhere from 12 to 32 years in any sign. Obviously, the longer it's in that sign, the more retrogrades we're seeing. And when we go into a retrograde period, it's where the planet is offering us review, reevaluation, rest, respite, an opportunity to step back and to really look at things from a new perception. And if we can't adopt a new perception, again, the rest in order to allow the smoke to clear. We are seeing Pluto has been hanging out at 26 degrees for quite some time. I mean, for years. But in the year 2022, it went to 26 degrees in August. And then again, it's going to stay at 26 degrees because it barely moved during this retrograde. Barely, like, if anything at all, it moved on maybe 1 degree. So this is going to, as it moves forward, that 26th degree is the Taurian degree. As you go around the zodiac, there are 30 degrees in each sign. We go with the first 12, then they repeat. I believe these are like stages, just like the caterpillar to the butterfly. So when we're in the later stages of a sign and we've seen a planet going retrograde and then forward again and then retrograde, it's given us opportunities to review the energies that are working and are not working. Now, oftentimes the human will inadvertently be trained and imprinted and branded with the idea that others are more important than themselves. And ultimately, I think Pluto is our friend because it will take no prisoners in the deconstruction of anything that does not serve you, that does not allow you to feel confident, to feel your self-worth, to feel your voice heard in the world. And that's where I go to the idea that the Taurian degree is the Venusian degree. Venus rules Taurus. And so we see Venus ruling our money, our relationships, she rules our skills in the second house of Taurus, our voice. It also rules our family history. And we're looking at Pluto being in Capricorn, which rules history in general. So we're seeing a real opportunity to review that which came before, not to villainize it, but to now capitalize on it by allowing ourselves to sort of ingest that and yet transform it into a new energy. So the next couple of years, from 2022 now until November 2024, I think we're going to see this transformation be implemented. I feel like we're going into the stage 4, the adulthood, where this metamorphosis is now giving us an opportunity to stretch our wings, to surrender to that which has been torn away, that which feels as if it has been corrupt, unfair, disruptive to a point of wondering what the point of life is. And that's where I think this has an opportunity to be beautiful, because the point of life is for the soul to inhabit this dense vessel known as a human body and to apply what it knows when it's out of body. So the human comes here in some ways for a Plutonian experience, to walk first as the caterpillar in the human body. And then as we are willing to ingest the imbalance and look at our deeper psychological motivations, there's nothing wrong with being married to someone with money. But if we have chosen that person strictly for money, is that really a balanced situation that creates joy? Or does that money turn into a tool of dominance and power, whether it's being exercised by the other person or your own thought process? I must do this. I must do that in order to receive this. So I think when we're looking at these last degrees of Capricorn, we are looking at deconstructing every structure around us, from our mental structures, our emotional structures, and the structures that are within our communities, in order to bring more balance, which is a win-win. Because Aquarius rules innovation. Aquarius rules rebellion. Aquarius rules the power of the people, where Capricorn rules government and authority. And if we think about even, the recent events of the Queen passing in England, there's a changing of the guard. And it's very timely as we see Pluto moving through these two signs, because Aquarius rules space. Aquarius rules a higher octave of awareness of the air element, what we're thinking, what we're speaking, what we're reading, what media we soak in through the World Wide Web and large systems and bodies. Uranus is the higher octave of Mercury, and Mercury rules our thinking. And I really, truly believe that our thinking is the beginning of our experiences. So our awareness of that, and then allowing ourselves to be sort of brave in our participation of what we're experiencing. If it's distasteful, we have opportunities to shift our way of thinking. This would be Pluto. This would be ingesting the old so that it can be transformed into something new. So I think that as Pluto starts to move forward, and it will do so again until March. And at the same time, interestingly enough, Pluto's friend Mars is in Gemini. And while this video is not focused on that, I'll be doing a separate video on that. Mars has been transiting Gemini for a while, and it's going to go at the end of October 30th. It's going to go retrograde in Gemini. And this is where I really think we're going to dig in deep about how we're thinking. Mars calling us to be brave and courageous and heroic versus angry, resentful, and acting out aggressively. And that may happen to some people who are not aware. But those of us that have been seeking awareness and to be conscious co-creators will embrace these dynamics as opportunities rather than obstacles. So let's go through the houses right now and see how, because I want to real quickly, again, just sort of reiterate the dates of this transit, because this is sort of a long video. Well, this is going to start now. It's going to continue to repeat itself over the next 2 years. And I want to offer this as well. The last time Pluto was in Aquarius was 1762 to 1778, which coincides with the American Revolution. So we're going to see Pluto hanging out at 26 degrees until December 8th, where Pluto will move to the 27th degree, making an opposition, making a conjunction to the United States natal Pluto. That natal Pluto is making an opposition to Mercury in Cancer in the United States chart. This is the people of the United States having an opportunity to transform anything that feels overpowering, dominant, and controlling, old structures that have contributed to the imbalance, the haves and the have-nots, to bring more awareness of our psychological processes that then dictate our actions and offers us more choice. So not only will we feel these transformations on the inside, we will feel them and see them played out on the world stage. So Pluto will enter Aquarius, as I said, March 23rd, 2023. Then it will retrograde back into Capricorn in June on the 12th. It will stay there the rest of the year until January 22nd, 2024, when it will re-enter Aquarius and stay there until September 2024. Then it will retrograde back into Capricorn. And then finally in November of 2024, which I believe is an election year, it will enter Aquarius and stay in Aquarius for the next 19 years. So I believe we're going to see unprecedented changes in the structure of everything, not just the United States, not just our personal lives, but on a world stage. And I believe this is going to bring power to the people. I believe this is going to bring efforts to see ourselves as a global community become more powerful, more vocal. We're going to see those that purport I win, you lose are going to be, I don't want to say squelched, but I do believe they're going to be exposed in a more visible way. And in doing so, this is going to offer us an opportunity to truly play on this planet with our manifestations in ways that we never have before. I love the History Channel, and I've been watching the Knights Templars, and I think it was the 14th century when the French king just decided out of nowhere that he didn't like the power that the Knights Templars had, their influence. And he got together with the Pope, and they, created a coup to exterminate the Knights Templars. There was no thought of compromise. There was no thought of coming together and seeing about rewriting the structure of the situation. So I bring this up because this is how we've been rolling for hundreds of years. So now I believe that, as we see this opportunity for Pluto to enter Aquarius, we're going to see ourselves start to rebel in different ways than we did before. We may rebel more with our words, more with our thoughts than we are with our fists. And I think this will be a new and constructive way to agree to disagree and to allow for new structures. It's going to get a little scary and choppy at first, especially for those that are used to old ways of being. But at the same time, just like it's scary for the caterpillar never knew that it could fly. And it had to give up everything in order to be able to create the wings to fly. So let's see how this is going to affect our Aries friends. Aries, this is going to start off in Capricorn in your 10th house. It's the most visible and public house in the zodiac. It's the house of honor. And whatever happens in that house is very, the people in your community, the people in your family, your network of people will know about it. So we're going to see an opportunity to get real with what's important to you about your career, your leadership, your professional life, your social status, your own ambition, and to allow yourself to rewrite the structures of that, because you may inadvertently realize that what you thought you were amassing is not as important to you as it once was, or the platform with which you were amassing it is not a platform that's important to you or as important to you as it used to be. Capricorn is naturally the builder, the material. I want to see this in the 3D world. It does rule depression, again, government, rules, tradition. So we're going to see Pluto really sort of digging up in your mind's eye what the structure is and what you really want. Then Pluto is going to retrograde into your 11th house of networks. And I think this is where Aries, the hero, Aries, the brave one, Aries, oftentimes Aries is just referred to as the warrior, the aggressor, the pissed off one. But I really believe that it takes a bit of chutzpah to go into a high adrenaline situation and to be a hero. So here we're going to see your transformation very public to your network, to your house of friends, to who and what you are. And I think what we're going to see too is your willingness to be authentic. You know, the hero is not brave by nature. The hero is brave in the face of fear. The hero is courageous instinctually. It doesn't really get a chance to weigh the pros and the cons. The other thing about Aries is that it rules the head. The head encases the mind. So I think that there's a real opportunity to display leadership, to display a sense of destiny. And I say that because I believe the destiny to be, you know, Capricorn being in the public eye on the higher vibration is really wonderful. It's that tenacity to push through when you can't see the outcome. And you just have to kind of put your nose to the grindstone. And that can be a very powerful energy, especially if other people are experiencing that from you. So when we see Pluto go into Aquarius, this will affect your house of friends, your hopes and your dreams, how you're perceived out in the big world, the humanitarian world, the, you know, being on TikTok, being on Facebook, being on Instagram, any of these platforms that I don't know about that will be created, you will be seen on them. So being able to really choose and to think ahead of time what's important to me, because the pain that Pluto offers is usually the disillusionment of where we've given up our power, where we say to ourselves, I'm too tired to keep working at this. I'm too tired to keep hoping for this. I'm too exhausted. And Pluto will say, are you willing to eat up those fears? Are you willing to eat up your victimhood in order to be a victor? Because at the bottom line that Pluto knows is that our thoughts are things, and our thoughts create our experience, and our focused thought kicks in the law of attraction. And this is where the cycle just continues on. If we don't change our line of thought, and then once we change our line of thought, allow for a new experience, we cannot truly transform. All right, now let's go on to Taurus. Capricorn is your 9th house. So you've been seeing transformation going on for quite some time in your belief system. In 9th house is the house of journey, long journeys, international journeys, foreign things, diversity, the quest for truth, the meaning of life, multiculturalism, higher education, and the judicial system. And in many ways, it rules the church, the Pope, big figures there. So I think there's going to be an opportunity to really reinvent and dig deep into the permissions you give yourself to explore new beliefs, to start to think about the idea that Taurus rules money and how you make your money. Do I have to work hard? Do I have to be arduous? Because Capricorn will definitely tell you that. But Aquarius will have a different idea. Aquarius will be innovative. You know, we never could have conceived 10 years ago that there would be people that were making a very good living documenting their lives in little 30-second segments on these platforms. So as Taurus rewrites their belief system, gives life to the idea of diversity, then when Pluto retrogrades back into your 10th house, Aquarius, moves into your 10th house of Aquarius, you'll have an opportunity to rewrite your career, to rewrite how you see yourself and your resources, and to give life to your voice, because Taurus naturally rules the voice. So this is the 2-year process that's going to be going on back and forth between the later degrees of Capricorn and those very first degrees of Aquarius. Gemini. Capricorn is your 8th house, the house of death. Pluto rules the 8th house by nature. So there is no death. That is a human illusion, which is a beautiful thing to transform, because as we surrender to the idea that the soul is eternal and the soul has occupied this human experience for a very good reason, to transform. The soul has chosen to go into the human body, to literally use that body to ingest its toxic beliefs to transform them. Because the 8th house is by nature a deep psychological truth, you know, and oftentimes we will say one thing because we are truly afraid of a deeper truth. You know, I've seen people who want to be in relationships, and as they age, they start panicking about the viability of having a relationship. So the deeper truth is, I'm only viable in my youth. Pluto's going to break that up. Pluto's going to annihilate that. Pluto's going to villainize that thought and require you to transform that. So if you've given up your power to any sort of, dominance, to somebody else's money, to the idea of even sex, Pluto, the 8th house rules sex. So if you are staying in any sort of situation that is imbalanced in any of these places, we're going to start to see this really take a hit. And I don't want to say it negatively, because again, we're looking to transform, because when Pluto moves into your 9th house of Aquarius, you can be liberated. Your beliefs can completely change. You can see that there's co-creation in everything. So you can start to give value to things that maybe weren't valued before, or you can allow yourself the vulnerability of things, because the 8th house ruling sex is a very vulnerable place. If you're married and one person provides one thing, and through that providing is expected to provide something else, let's just be frank. In the olden days, women were expected to provide sex and food and nurturing to their spouses. The spouses brought in the money. So there's an opportunity now to truly find balance within those dynamics, where we exchange sex for pleasure versus exchanging sex for material security. And so here, I'm not saying that this is where everything lies, but this is a bottom line thing to look at. Do we deprive ourselves of sex? Do we deprive ourselves of exploration of some of the astrological and occult dynamics that rule the 8th house? Do we inadvertently, are we waiting for somebody to provide resources because we have a fear about our ability to create our own resources? All of these things will come up for you over the next 2 years and allow your belief system, allow you to connect in that 9th house of the connection to the angelic realm, to the higher vibrations of the 9th house, are being able to journey into places I've never been before, not just physical places like Italy or Greece or China, but places within my belief system, and really anchoring in the idea that, wow, maybe this human vessel really isn't about trying to create an effortless life, but enjoying what it takes to go through the roller coaster, through the constant transformations, and starting to enjoy the ride, because you're starting to anchor in your own power. And your power comes from your thoughts and how you direct those thoughts, and the privileges you give yourself to stay away from media or information that doesn't serve where you want to move. All right, so Cancer. Capricorn is your 7th house, and that's the house of partnerships, both professional and personal. It is going to open up and dig into where you have given up your power. There could be divorces or marriages that show up during this time. Pluto will completely turn things upside down. And I thought that was very interesting too, because the caterpillar, when it's going through, once it starts to spin the cocoon, it turns itself upside down, hanging from that little twig. Very vulnerable place. Also reminds me very much of the Hanged Man in the tarot, because the Hanged Man is not trapped on to the apparatus. It's very loosely tied. And also that hanging upside down implies an epiphany, because we see the golden ring around his head. It also represents the planet Neptune, and Neptune represents fog and where we don't see things clearly. And so again, we have this opportunity to really see the divinity of disruption, to see where Cancer may have inadvertently given up its own voice, its power, to a marriage or to a partnership, and then to surrender that, because then we go into the 8th house of transformation. And Aquarius, being your 8th house, offers you innovation in how you view yourself in relation to others. And one of the things I notice about Cancer is that it can nurture to the point, or nurture others to the point where it literally forgets to nurture itself. And this is a big imbalance that's been perpetrated over and over and over again historically. So I think it's very beautiful that Capricorn is Cancer's 7th house, because the balance of self-nurturing and nurturing of others is where we truly invite others to step up and feel inspired. So this is going to be super powerful. And again, this is a very long transit in the sense of these last few degrees offer us an opportunity to master this, to really, here we are looking at the 26th degree, which we're leaving. Okay. Then we go into the 27th degree, which is a Gemini degree, which is about my thoughts. Then we go into the 28th and 29th degree, which, while they represent Cancer and Leo, 28 reduces down to a 1, and so 29 reduces down to an 11, master number of thought. Again, thought being the seedling, the impetus for our experiences. So this is super powerful. All right, now let's go on to our Leos. Leo, Capricorn is your 6th house. That's the house of servants and service. It's the house of our health. It's the house of our mental health, because without our mental health, we don't really have physical health. It's the house of our pets, and the house of our employment, paid or unpaid. This is a real opportunity for Leo. By nature, you're a creative being. You rule children, you rule romance, you rule hobbies, you rule entertainment, you rule the actor and the performer. So I feel like this is a way for you to allow Pluto's fierce energy to help you to roar into the demands of what it will take for you to express yourself authentically, and to allow that expression to be of service, to be of value to others. Most of us want to live a fun life. We don't want to work, 60 hours a week at a job that doesn't really appreciate us or doesn't really pay us. But yet so many people do that to survive. And so sometimes I think that we're either jealous of people who are able to live the life they create, and yet we want to be inspired by those people through how they show up in a way of humility, in a way of compassion to others. So when we see Leo's 6th house being Capricorn, Aquarius is your 7th house. That's right. I start to mess myself in my head. So I feel like this is an opportunity for you to really get innovative in how you view your partnerships and how you view your value in those partnerships. It's almost like you get to set your ego aside, and I mean it in such a way where you're edging God out, so that you can see that the betterment of yourself is also the betterment of your partnerships and your service to others and your children. Could be very well your children. Following your talents and your gifts, regardless of your age, could be very inspiring to the people you love the most. Now, Virgo, this is Capricorn is your 5th house, the house of children, also the house of debauchery, because, too much fun, what they say, too much fun isn't really good either. It's gluttony, etc. So I want to offer it this way. I think Pluto, Virgo, having your 5th house be Capricorn, is an opportunity for you to liberate yourself from any structures that are repressive, depressive. If you think about it, being too much of service to another human, even if it's your own child, will inadvertently erode you. It will erode you to a place where you don't feel appreciated. And I kind of hate to say this, but my dog has never lived a bad day in his life because he never had to struggle for anything. So sometimes he doesn't always appreciate all the gifts he gets. So here we see Virgo having an opportunity to express fun, to break some old structures, to give yourself permission to follow what you love, to use your gifts, to use your skills, to use your talents, and see them be viable versus too much of service. Because as Pluto moves into your 6th house of Aquarius, this gives you an opportunity to liberate yourself and to really actually put you in a better state of health, more joy that your body experiences, the more your cells respond to that. So as Pluto moves into your 6th house, it's going to change up your daily routines. Well, wouldn't it be fun to make money at your own self-expression, aka TikTok or the like? Because again, here we see people filming their children or their lives or their creativity or their thoughts and their opinions. And as they are working at that and continue with consistency going through the process, Virgo, they are benefiting, and they are benefiting materially. So I think this is super powerful. So you can be totally liberated over the next few years in how you work and where you find your daily routine and the time you're spending. Libra, Capricorn is your 4th house. And I always find this interesting because naturally Capricorn and Libra square each other, and yet the ruler of Capricorn is exalted in Libra. So there is always synergy amongst what appears not to be synergistic. The 4th house is the house of home, and on a deeper psychological dynamic, which Pluto's offering, is transformation from your historical roots and the impressions and the imprint that your family left on you. There is, in this 4th house, there are unbreakable bonds, and I don't mean that in a higher vibrational way, because many people's families split up, but the experience of those families will live on and on and on and on. And it's that where that human focus starts to create experiences. So we're going to see Libra really be able to deconstruct what has ever repressed you, depressed you, stoked your fears about your home, the safety of your home, the viability and happiness of your family, and where you have come from. Because when you find inspiration in disruption, when you say to yourself, well, maybe I had a terrible childhood and this is why I want to be a mom, or I want to be a dad, or I want to create a happy home, that is a beautiful Plutonian transformation from the dark side to the light side. We also are going to see Pluto moving into your 5th house back and forth. So if for some reason you are of childbearing years and you've had trouble bearing a child, I don't know, hasn't been the easiest transit. So the soul that will be your child could want to come through in the next few years, either be born or conceived during the time when Pluto's moved into innovative Aquarius, really allowing for a deep-rooted, worldwide, visible change in how humanity rolls. So when we think about on a soul's level, that's a really cool thing for the child that you would bear, or the children you'll be raising. I also want to offer it this way, because again, the 5th house rules pleasure, it rules personal pleasure, it rules entertainments and hobbies. And so you may find yourself really starting to make that a priority, because Venus rules Libra. And so you wanting to create home and hearth and luxury. And as I say this, I almost feel like Librans may start to really anchor into the idea of creating more family experiences, game night within your family, doing fun things with the family, creating sort of a Chip and Joanna Gaines experience within your own dynamic. And I don't know if everybody likes Chip and Joanna, but I can appreciate what they're fostering and nurturing out into the world. Okay, let's go on to our Scorpios. Wow, this is going to be cool, Scorpio. Capricorn is your 3rd house, and Pluto is your lord of the manor. And I want to offer it this way because when you have a strong Scorpio energy in your chart, you are here for transformation. You are here to demand the butterfly experience, but you can't get to the butterfly until you're the caterpillar. So here we're going to see the third house represents thoughts, things. Thoughts are things. My speech represents my thoughts, which then turn into things. What I read, what I absorb in the media, the people, my teammates, my workmates, my cousins, my siblings, all these people offer me transformation, a dismantling on a psychological level of how I've been affected by these things, and now to reclaim my voice, my thoughts, myself within this. It's like a deconstruction of what you learned as a young child. And I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, but at the same time, this consciousness liberates you and allows you to truly stand in a place that allows the depth of your sign, the depth of what you feel and see. The thing about a Scorpio, especially when they're children, is they will walk into a room and say the most taboo thing. And it isn't because they're wrong. It's just their observation, and they haven't learned yet not to say things. It's the emperor's no clothes. That kid was probably Scorpio, Pluto ruled. And so this is an opportunity to really liberate yourself and start to rebuild in a material way the kind of things that you want to be able to experience on the planet in your everyday life. The third house rules our everyday life, our daily routines, driving to work, picking up the kids, and all those things. Now, when Pluto moves into Aquarius, it's going to give you an opportunity to really start to nurture your intuition, to pay attention to the things that are important to you on a deep level, the things that for the most part you might have been trained not to trust, and now it's time to start to trust them again. I also want to offer this because you may also give yourself an opportunity to completely change where you live, your residency. You may choose to move or to anchor into your homeland or your home. A certain amount of, I want to offer it this way. I kind of think it might be something like wanting to live in neighborhoods that are more authentic to who you are and what you want to experience. So let's say you've lived in a big city and people are just hustle and bustle and everybody's like table for one. And so you decide, I really want to live somewhere that's a little more slow pace, where people wave at each other on the street. You know your neighbor's name. That's your neighbor's dog that got out of the yard. And rather than being afraid of the dog, to go get the dog and give it back to your neighbor. I hope you understand my metaphor there. All right, Sagittarius. This is wild because this is all about the second house. Second house rules confidence. It rules my family history. It rules my character values. It rules security. Security that there will be enough food, enough money, a house over my head. And it helps this is the house that builds your confidence. It's also, Sagittarius is the same rising sign as the United States. So you have the same zodiacal, is that a word? You have the same wheel. So I think that Sagittarius is really going to start to deconstruct any of the old structures that don't serve it, really allow for the innovation. Sagittarius by nature rules diversity, multicultural situations and experiences. So here we're going to see Sagittarius really starting to look at moving in a new direction, thinking about new thoughts, and how you make your money, and giving life to that evolution, because then we move that Pluto into Aquarius, your third house, which is your everyday activities. Again, what you think, what you speak, how you write. So I wouldn't be surprised if after this 2-year experience, we're seeing more platforms that offer our own personal opinions, people creating their own jobs, people using their own skills, especially their voice, their writing, their speaking, and how they express themselves out into the world. Again, Aquarius is always going to be a bit of a world stage, and a world stage that is not focused on the individual, but on the collective and uplifting the collective. All right. Let's go on to our Capricorns. Oh boy. Okay. So this is as if you haven't been through enough, right? These last few stages of development of the self. The first house rules your personal impact on the world. It rules your self-perception, your assertion. It's known as the house of personality. And on a real challenging level, Capricorn rules duty. So it's basically the guy that says, I don't care how you feel about it. This is how we do it. This is how it's done. And this is how you're going to do it. I don't know if that's going to work anymore. Pluto's been deconstructing that since 2008, and it will really start to, this is the master class. These last 2 years, or these next 2 years, are going to be where we go back and forward through Aquarius and Capricorn to really anchor in, to materialize, to synthesize, to integrate this new way of being. And this is where Capricorn can take that enduring energy and now focus it in on the new structures that serve not just yourself, but the collective from a higher perception. That's the way I want to put it. It's going to go into your second house, Aquarius, of it'll transit into the house of money, and you may find yourself making money as a leader, as a transformational influencer, as somebody who was riddled with fear or depression. We see a lot of commercials about depression and drugs to help with depression. And one of them actually, I can't even believe how funny it is, because it basically says, now that I have my mental health under control, I need this drug because my antidepressant gave me tics. And I think there's no way you're walking around ticking and jerking like you have Tourette's and you feel confident. So this is all going to become more inflamed over the next few years, which is going to put us into a call of action. Capricorn, you may look at these things and completely find yourself going from black to white. Like this may, in some respects, polarize you from being one thing and now you're another thing. Caterpillar walked on a little twig eating leaves. The butterfly flies on the airwaves and only eats nectar. So I think that's where, as you move into Aquarius, you're going to find yourself an opportunity to liberate yourself, to look at money differently, to look at your material resources, your self-confidence, and to liberate yourself and to see yourself from a whole new point of view. All right, on to Aquarius. Capricorn is your 12th house. That is the house of self-undoing. It's the house that sits behind the house of self. So if we think of the first house as the house of self, I'm facing this way, it's what I can't see. So there is a very spiritual component to this house because it requires me slowing down so that I can feel things. It's a meditative house. It's a house where we find a connection to the divine. We find wisdom in divine disruption and karmic crossroads that offer us opportunities. And sometimes those opportunities don't come until the rug feels like it's been pulled out underneath us. And that's what Pluto will do. Pluto will help you transcend the self, to have compassion for the self, to become a more conscious co-creator. But usually these things happen through pain, and pain makes us want to retreat. It makes us want to go into our bedroom and sleep. And that's also what the 12th house represents. So Aquarius, you may find yourself being disillusioned with the masses, you may find yourself thwarted initially in your voice, but then we're going to see Pluto move into your first house of self. And this is where you may realize that when Pluto was transiting Capricorn, it was really a metamorphosis stage. It was the stage where you were in the chrysalis. I say that wrong. Chrysalis. I don't know. The cocoon. And now you're having an opportunity to come out, because Aquarius is ruled by Uranus, and sometimes it feels jarring and like I'm nervous and I've been electrocuted and I'm in this state of flux that makes me feel uncomfortable. But that uncomfortableness is a call to action that's illuminating whatever imbalance is being reflected as the structure of your life in that 12th house was being revealed. So if you feel a wanting to really start a spiritual practice, a spiritual study, to go into more meditation time or various forms of meditation, this could very much serve you. Because when we finally see Pluto move into Aquarius, you will completely rewrite who and what you are. You will be in very much have the bones of who you used to be, but you'll be a new person. And I think you'll have a stronger sense of comfort with the roller coaster ride that is Pluto. All right. Our final sign is Pisces. Pisces, Capricorn is your 11th house. So you've been watching a transformation in your hopes and your dreams, in the network of people around you, in the world at large, humanitarian endeavors, in innovation, in technology, in space and science. I love watching Ancient Aliens in the History Channel and Nova. And it's so fun to start to watch science and astrology and astronomy all come together to tell new stories, and stories that are supported by science. So I think that Pisces, 11th house, has had you kind of deconstruct on some level how much power you've given to outside sources. And I feel as if you've been disappointed by things, there's the potential that with your Piscean mutable energy, that maybe you were going to give up too much power to something outside of yourself. So now, as Pluto moves into your 12th house, you'll get to explore new things. And if for some reason you've been having any challenges with mental health, or feeling psychologically drained, or in historic patterns that don't stop repeating themselves, you may find as Pluto moves into Aquarius that you really explore alternative modalities of healing. You may even discover that there is no such thing as healing, but rather an awareness of what the dark does for the light and what the light does for the dark, a way of balancing things out, because neither is good or bad in and of itself. So I feel like Pisces is going to go through this metamorphosis of deconstructing giving up your power to others, being compassionate to others at the self-sacrifice of you. I mean, that's kind of redundant, self-sacrifice, but you get where I'm going with this. And in doing so, I think it offers really this true, because Pisces also represents karma and ancestors on the other side, which again reflects a certain amount of history. It's the point in the zodiac where the soul's gone through the whole zodiac and it's going to be reassimilated into the non-physical. So all of these things feel like it's going to transform Pisces into being more aware of the duality of incarnate and out of in body and out of body, the spiritual and the physical, and how they serve one another. And I think on some level, you may be really able to represent true cooperation and balance as you trust a more spiritual path that leads you to being more brave about sometimes the Neptunian, imaginary, illusionary things that deep in your heart you know aren't true, but you operate on them in the physical, hoping if you do that, they will show themselves in the material. And yet that deeper inner knowing and trepidation is the platform for the manifestation. So I think Pisces will really be able to experience a revolution within themselves as they marry two sides of themselves into one, versus to someone outside of yourself with yourself, and then inadvertently being absorbed. So that's what I have to say about Pluto right now. We're going to talk a lot more about Pluto as we get closer and closer to it moving into Aquarius, even for those brief period of time, because we will see things happen on a world stage that we can't even predict right now. So thank you for listening and joining me today. My name is Teri Hunter. I'm an intuitive astrologer. If you'd like to get a reading with me, either an astrology reading or an angel reading, both are available. Contact me directly and I'll give you rates and the parameters of that, as I don't have them on my website because I'm a Libra sun. I like to create relationships. And I hope you will like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, share these videos on your social media platforms, and come back I will be producing more content, and I'm here every Sunday live at 11 a.m. Pacific time to look at the week's transits and to do angel and tarot card reading to help us traverse those transits. So thanks, everybody. I'm glad you joined me. Peace out. Peace out. Kind of retarded right now.